Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. My name is Caroline HEWARD and I'm known as the Harley Street Stress Expert. Today's show is the Listening Mentor. Yes, the Listening Mentor. And this is all about listening. And we listen in all sorts of ways. It's not just with our two ears. We listen through our physiology, through our emotions, through our feelings. We listen in many different ways. There are many different ways of listening, not only to ourselves, to others. Now, this is the Listening Mentor, and today I'm very happy to announce that we have a beautiful guest that should be arriving shortly. Her name is Trish Robichaud. I'm hoping that I've pronounced that right when she does arrive, and she will be joining us shortly. Now, listening, we listen in this show at an elevated level. What do I mean by that? What I mean is we like to promote listening with all our sensory from that elevated position that we are not thinking about what we're going to say next. We are not circumventing what the other person might say and then thinking about what we might answer to them. We are not fiddling with our phones. We are not in a daydream thinking about what's for tea, what's for dinner, or the conversation, or what's going to happen after the conversation. We are elevated listeners, and what that means is this show is all about how do we become totally present to ourselves and the people that we are with. And they will thank you for it, because when you are elevated in your listening, when you are listening from your core, when you are listening totally present with yourself and the other person, time disappears. It literally disappears. And what do I mean by that? Have you ever had a really nice meal with someone and then the time has gone really quickly? I used to live in London, and on a Sunday, if I ever went out on a Sunday evening, the tubes finished early. Yeah, believe it or not, in London, it closes up, shortly after 11. And if I was having dinner with someone and I didn't see a clock and I'm not looking at my phone because I'm totally present with them, one of the things that used to happen quite regularly is I used to miss my last tube home. And then it was a nightmare because I would have to catch buses and wait for the night service bus, and it would take me 2 hours. Instead of getting home around midnight, I would get home at 1 or 2 in the morning. So I was listening at an elevated level. I was totally present with myself, the conversation, and the other person. And when you're in conversation with someone else, when you are listening at that very high level of being totally present with the other person, magic happens. It really feels good. It feels enlightening when you are in that kind of conversation, not only with yourself, but with the other person. Time zips by and you will feel really good. And people that you're with in that space will generally say, wow, is that the time? Didn't time go quickly? Well, I want to look at the emotions today, how emotions affect the way that we listen, not only to ourselves, but to those around us. And when someone is complaining, when someone is having a challenge, with a physical or an emotional ache and pain, they are generally full of that physical, emotional, mental ache and pain. All their conversation will be about that ache and pain. So the person that's going on and on about a relationship that broke down, the marriage broke down, he did this, she did that. And then when you actually go in a little bit closer and you ask questions, this is the art of listening, to ask really good questions. And when you ask a question about what the person is asking, it will show them, it will make them feel that you are listening. Sometimes to be a good listener, it's about asking great questions. And then the conversation flows really easily. So when you ask a question, the other person will be very happy and comfortable to give you an answer, because it's very easy to talk about the other person. It's very easy to be in conversation when the person is talking about themselves. I look forward to sharing with you some incredible tips and hints in this show, the Elevated Listening Show. This is where the listening mentor takes listening to the highest level possible. So let's begin with what happens when we are feeling emotional. Usually, internally, we get some internal physical experiences in our body. Sometimes we might have butterflies if we're excited. Have you ever had butterflies or felt really excited about a date or somebody you're meeting? What about when there is challenges and you're feeling nervous or uncomfortable? When you're feeling nervous and uncomfortable, then it makes it difficult to comprehend and to be present, because when there's a difficult situation, the mind gets clogged with that situation and that emotion, and it will get really tied up mentally and physically with what's going on. I'm rather hoping that our wonderful guest will be joining us shortly. So we await our wonderful guest, Trish Robichaud. So she will be joining us very soon. But in the meantime, I'm going to share with you more tips on how to listen at an elevated level emotionally. So when we start to feel excited, it usually hits the stomach because it's the second brain. The emotional center of the belly, of the abdominal brain, is where we start to experience and sense experiences that we're not handling from an emotional level. So when we're feeling nervous, we will start to experience those experiences in the stomach. Now, sometimes we don't listen. So, for instance, if I'm feeling nervous about a meeting, I won't express it. I will just feel it. And that will affect my entire system. And that will affect the way that I communicate, the way that I come across, the way that I hold myself, the way that I'm with the other person. And it'll also affect my outcomes, because I'm feeling nervous, then the other person will interact with me and they will feel that nervousness from me, and they will then start to feel nervous, uncomfortable, and unconfident with being with me and what I'm sharing with them. And this happens a lot when you're in business meetings, when you're suffering with experiences of pitches, of when you're in a business meeting looking for a positive outcome for a problem, then it will affect the outcomes. And if you're feeling nervous and you're not expressing it, or in your good place of being very in the minute and very in control and knowing where you're coming from and everything is good and you're in a good state, the person will feel that you're not in a good state. And this is not a place to buy from. This is not a place where we will be comfortable to move forward in that space. Right, it looks like Trish Robichaud will be joining us about now. So next up is our special guest. Let's warmly welcome Trish. Please welcome Trish. Hi.
Hi, Carolyn.
I'm
Thank
so
you so
glad you could
much.
join us.
I am so sorry I was running late. Anyway,
Hey,
no excuse. I won't even go there.
this is really good that you've joined us. I wasn't sure whether you were joining us, but this is good. This is amazing. Trish, this is the Listening Mentor show. This is where we listen at an elevated level. So Trish is our special guest today, and I'd love Trish to, I invite you to let our audience know a little bit about you, a little bit about your work and how they can contact you, and what made you join the Listening Mentor.
Wow.
Trish.
Well, thank you. First, I want to thank you so much, Carolyn, for having me and being so gracious as to still letting me on air today to talk to you when I was late. I first connected with Dr. Jacalyn, and she's such a vibrant person. She invited me to start participating in the station, the USK Global Today, and I very much enjoyed that. Was part of A Better You earlier on, and I got involved because I'm a life coach. I've been working with entrepreneurs with disabilities. I'm a business coach as well. I personally. Oh, wow. How do we get here? I was diagnosed with MS in multiple sclerosis in 1993, and that was at the tail end of a 12-year career in credit management. And I say tail end because I lost my job as a result of my sick time I'd racked up leading up to the diagnosis. And we learned that that was very wrong, and realized that was very wrong. And from that experience, I took two big messages. Number one, when you live with a disability, you had to learn how to advocate for yourself. And I knew that there was lots of people out there with disability who didn't know how to advocate for themselves or didn't have the emotional fortitude to sue their employer, as I did, and sued their butts off and settled in my favor, and learned from that it didn't have to go down like that. So my two lessons were: one, you have to advocate for yourself, and two, the situation with my employer didn't have to go down like that. It was a matter of ignorance and fear. And because of that, ignorance meaning they just had no experience whatsoever with having disability in the workplace, and fear as to what it was going to cost them. And so I decided that God gave me a big mouth. And he also thankfully gave me, or she gave me, a big cup of diplomacy to go with it. So I decided to put the two of those together. And on the one hand, I've been advocating for and coaching entrepreneurs with disabilities for 20 years now. As of April this year, it was 20 years. And on the flip side of my business, I've been providing corporate consulting to businesses on how to engage with, interact with, and support employees with disabilities. So I took my two lessons and turned them into two businesses.
Wow, how exciting is that? Well done. That's absolutely amazing to have turned a disability into two, not just one business, but two businesses. And I really applaud you.
We function both under the auspices of Changing Paces, which is the name of the company. Yeah, two sets of markets and two different business activities. And thankfully, I have over time built a fabulous team that supports me. And that's actually one of the things that I work most closely with business owners on, entrepreneurs most often, is how to set up a team without breaking the bank, how to get there, how to start small, how to actually make that happen. Because I'm a firm believer, from personal experience of 20 years in business living with chronic illness, that it is impossible to be consistent to life when you live with chronic illness. But I've also discovered from other clients that it's impossible to be consistent when you have aging parents with high needs, when you have children with disabilities, or when you have some other ongoing high need crisis in your life. To be self-employed, you have to be consistent. Marketing has to be consistent. But when you can't be consistent, it's really very impossible. I remember the year that I was diagnosed with bipolar. It took 2 years to get my mental health back together. And that means I was 2 years away from my business. When I had quadruple bypass in 2011, I was away from my business for a whole year. So from those, and there have been a couple other episodes over 20 years where I've been away from my business for long periods. And so I had to learn to listen to my situation and let it dictate my needs. And I discovered that the best way for me to be consistent is to plan my backup, and to have people in place so that when I need the downtime, I can take it because I can rely on people who are listening to my needs.
Well, that's to your credit, Trish, to have such sincere listening skills. And you definitely are listening to yourself at an elevated level, that you're taking the time out of your business, setting it up so that you don't have to be in it. And more to the point, that you're looking after yourself. And that's to be totally commended. There isn't many people that would be able to do that and still run their business. They're either in sickness or in the business, and they're driving themselves through if they are in the business and not able to leave it with their sickness, which then becomes a burden. So this really is listening to the emotional and the physical manifestations of stress in the body at an extraordinarily elevated level. I really have a lot of regard for what you've done, especially over the last 20 years. There's been a lot of change in 20 years.
Oh my goodness, yes.
In terms of our tech, there's a lot of social media now, where 20 years ago we weren't there. There was no Twitter, Facebook. And there's much more impetus on the marketing to be seen. Certainly I've had to change my positioning in social media, because since 2008, I've seen that it's not about the networking in the same way that it was then. It's more about how you're seen online. So,
Absolutely.
I really highly commend you. So tell me, when you mentioned that you've gone through bipolar, how was that diagnosed? How did you find out? Because that's to overcome it, that's a huge transformation for you. So how did you find out that you got it, and what did you do to overcome it?
I was in a bout of mania, a manic episode. At the time, I didn't know that. I was not self-diagnosed. I didn't see it. I just thought I was a workaholic, which I am. But in that particular episode, I had been working steady for 3 days with no sleep. It was not, back in those days prior to diagnosis, it was not unusual for me to work through the night like once a week. In a really bad week, maybe twice a week. Never two, well, no, I shouldn't say that, never 2 nights in a row, because there was one point where I said to myself, wow, today's the 4th day without sleep. And this shouldn't be possible for me, but I still didn't see it. I really didn't see it. The final crux, the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, was one day I was in chronic sleep deprivation mode like I usually was, and didn't realize it, like I didn't at the time. And I left my home and drove to an appointment an hour from home. And as soon as I got on the highway, I started dozing off at the wheel. like every 30 seconds, and I'd like shake my head awake, and I'd like have this panicky feeling, and then I would doze off again, and I wake up, and it was over and over and over again, all the way to that appointment. And I'm on the highway. I could have killed, I don't know, countless people that day. And I got to the appointment, and I was so far, and this is part of the bipolar that I know now, is when you're bipolar, you think you're invincible. Like you just don't understand risk. Like it doesn't, there's no red flags at all. There's no yellow flags even. And I attended my appointment, and I got back in the car and did the same thing all over again. Like I should have, like, number one, I should have pulled off on the highway when it first started happening. Okay. But then but I wasn't listening to my body, because the chemistry in my brain was run amok. And I just didn't even grasp the danger. I just didn't, seriously. Anyways, I stopped at my girlfriend's place on the way home, and I told her what happened. And she said, "Oh, you're not going home from here. You're going straight to your doctor's office." And she made me go over, and I did. I went in, I saw my doctor, and thankfully she took me as an emergency. And she looked at me, and I told her what happened, and she just said, she said, "I suspect a long time ago that there was more going on than the depression that you came to me diagnosed with already." But anyway, she sent me to a psychiatrist, and it finally hit me. It still hadn't hit me. Okay. And it finally hit me when he gave me a prescription for lithium.
Oh gosh. So
wait a minute. Nobody
Nobody had through a war zone.
Exactly. Nobody had actually said bipolar out loud at this point. My doctor had just said, "I suspect you've been misdiagnosed." She didn't actually say it. And then she sent me to shrink. And I thought, okay, something mental health's going on, right? But like, how bad is it? And so I looked at him and I said, "And what in the world did I say to you to make you think I need lithium?" And he didn't say a word. He went like this, up and down with his hand like a snake, across the air in front of his face. And I said, "That's my life." And he said, "Yep." And so that was when he said, "You have bipolar." And anyway, it was earth shattering for me. I didn't, not shattering as in I was devastated. It was I should more say it was life changing, because it gave me the perspective, a new perspective, to start listening to my body from a new place. And when I started doing that, Carolyn, it was like, oh my God, this has been going on all my life. Look at that. Oh my God. And I didn't really have a clue, even though my behavior had been quite erratic, over the years. I was 52 or 53 when I was diagnosed. And in my 20s, maybe my early 30s, late 20s, I actually chased my husband down the QEW in my car one night. Okay. That's how erratic my behavior was at times. Not like all the time. I've always been very high functioning. I have bipolar 2, and bipolar 1 can be far more life destructive, but I've always been high functioning. And that's how, and I hope, somebody listening hears my story and says, "Wow, I never thought about it like that. Maybe that's why I did such and such," or threw that bowl across the room,
This is amazing how you have overcome the challenges that you have had to face, and you've taken that time and that space out too. Very much, your words, listening to your body. When we stop and we listen, it puts you in an extraordinary position to help others. So please, Trish, share with our viewers how you help others from the experience, your personal experiences of your challenges and overcoming them.
Well, being authentic is pretty well, I'm trained as a life coach, but I've been coaching friends. I mean, most people who are coaches, they know they've been coaching people all their lives. Um, but um, once I had that new diagnosis, now, of course, I'd been diagnosed with major depressive disorder when I was in my early 20s. So I had been living with mental health issues all of my life that I knew about. But I found that coaching gave me an opportunity to be authentic with people and like be a role model and like find a way to make it work. And God blessed me, as I said, with a big mouth, but I was also blessed with an infinite amount of positivity. I call myself a sickeningly silver lining seeker because many people have like get it up to here with my positivity, but that's literally, how I translate my experiences and my learnings and my lessons, like with my clients, is just I tell them where I've been. And it's scary where I've been. Some of the places I've been are pretty scary. And when I can be authentic about that, when you can tell somebody that you chased your husband down the QEW with your car, they are far more likely to be honest with you about what their stuff is. And that is completely authentic. And it's so, I use my trials and my tragedies as platforms for truth that build trust.
That's beautiful, and I really commend you in doing that, because that takes you into a place of vulnerability to be able to help people, and that's a way that you can connect at a much deeper level to help people in a space that are suffering. It's something similar, that I work in that way myself, and it's quite. We have a comment here from Heather Grant. She says authenticity reaches people and builds trust. I totally agree with you, Heather.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much
Heather.
for coming into the show and sharing that. It really does. It brings out an emotional connection far beyond what would be possible if you were very affronting and just came through as salesy. It makes you
Mm-hmm.
much more approachable, and absolutely
Mm-hmm.
commendable that you felt comfortable to show your vulnerability and display, how you've overcome it, because that's a way to help people feel that there is something after it, that there is a way through it.
Absolutely. There is an other side. Exactly.
And it's
There is.
beautiful.
And you know what? Honestly, and I have to interrupt you to say this, Carolyn, there's always, no matter what you're up against, there is always another side. There's always, whether you have to go through it, around it, under it, over it, or dissolve it, or blow it up. I don't know. I don't believe in no. I just don't.
I'm a little the same. We're very much coming from a similar place. When I was, I just got married. It was 2000, and my father passed away. I was in corporate and, flying and doing the things that you do, and the soirees, the receptions, and, sort of the life was, sort of deemed to be successful. And when my dad passed away, I didn't realize it, but I changed. And 6 months later, I was diagnosed as having a depression and had no idea. It was my boss that turned around and said something. And it's because of that. I was in marketing and PR. And because of that insight, I started questioning everything. Life, what's the meaning of life? What's my purpose? So I really do concur with how you can overcome situations of huge diversity and move forward in a very different way. I'd move from marketing to stress management.
There you go. See, and
And
it's you gravitated to something that transformed in a negative way. Okay, you had that. You'd never experienced depression before. right? Then when you lost your dad, and I'm so sorry for your loss, I know that feeling. The depression transformed who you were. Okay. It not permanently, but for a period of time, it gave you a perspective you'd never had before. Okay. And we need new perspectives, don't we?
Absolutely. Yeah. I became human,
yeah.
I feel. I became less shallow and much more human. Well, we're coming to the end of our show, Trish, and it's gone very quickly. And I've really enjoyed our time together. It's been an absolutely incredible experience of sharing your journey. Oh, we have another comment. Thank others, always notice a change in our behavior, but we see it in ourselves. Oh, I totally agree with that. That's from Heather Grant again. Thank you, Heather. So before we leave, I'd like Trish for you to share with our viewers live that are viewing us right now and the ones that are watching on the replay. Please share with them how they can contact you and the kind of things that you can do to help them. And we've got about 90 seconds.
Okay. Well, if you're an entrepreneur, you own your own business and you have a chronic health condition, it doesn't have to be as significant as mine, MS or heart disease or bipolar. It can be just living with depression, living with anxiety. These are the most two common, especially right now, since COVID. Yes, please come to 4talkwithtrish.com. That's the number 4, talkwithtrish.com, and you can book a free consultation with me. I'd love to chat and hear your story.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Trish. And for the viewers, from myself, I'm known as the Harley Street Stress Expert, and I also offer a free consultation on our viewers, overwhelmed with lots of free and lots of variety. My background is helping people with stress, anxiety, depression, physical, emotional, mental pain. And I work with root cause therapy through chakra psychology. I've been working in that space since 2000, and I was working in Harley Street. I had a Harley Street practice, and I'm now still in the UK. Whereabouts are you, Trish?
I'm about an hour north of Toronto.
Right, so you're in America, and I'm in the UK. I'm in England. So
wow, yes.
Truly a global platform. So you can reach out to email me on nomorestress@live.co.uk or call on +44 if you're international, 0 if you're local, 7523 120 189. And I look forward to offering you an incredible free telephone, Zoom, Skype, Messenger, audio, video consultation. It will revolutionize your life. It will change the way that you experience life. And more importantly, it will give you a really good night's sleep, and it will obliterate the root cause of what causes your physical, emotional, mental pain. Thank you very much, Trish. It's been an amazing show. I really am absolutely feeling very honored to have shared the platform with you today. Please, everybody, thank Trish for being part of the show, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. And we're now over to our sponsors. Thank you very much for your attention, for listening, and for being here at the Listening Mentor, where we practice elevated listening. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you next week. Over to our sponsor.
Hi, my name is Zane Carson Carruth, and I'm the author of this book, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever.
Reading is magic. Studies have shown that reading to your children lays the foundation for greater success in life. Reading helps develop language and vocabulary skills. It helps improve memory, and it encourages curiosity and inspires creativity. The benefits are immeasurable, and as a parent, you'll benefit too. In only 10 or 15 minutes a day, you'll be creating more memories and a bonding experience that will last for years to come. So take time to read to your children. Read them books about things that engage and interest them. Tales of fairies and magic fascinate children, and as everyone knows, the Tooth Fairy is at the top of the list. If your child loves magic, wands, adventure, and what child doesn't, you'll love reading them books from the trademarked series, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever. Follow along as Abella, the world's first tooth fairy, accidentally starts the tooth fairy tradition. Learn the tricks of being a professional tooth fairy in the book Abella Starts a Tooth Fairy School. Your child's imagination will soar as you read the adventures of Abella and her magic wand. These wonderful books are available at worldsfirsttoothfairy.com and at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart.